So welcome everyone. We are in the 27th episode of Fun with Heroes. And the stories that we have this week are of these four gentlemen. So do you know any one of them? They are amazing people from different parts of India and did different things actually. Three of them are revolutionary actually. One is a scientist. And all are
Kartar
born.
Singh Saraba.
Yes, first is a Kartar Singh Saraba. That's good. Yes, all four are born in May, actually the month of May. Yes. So, okay, without wasting much time, let's start with the stories actually. By the end of this, you will know these names. And first story we have is of Kartar Singh Saraba. Now, Punjab has given many revolutionaries during the freedom struggle. Okay, there are a lot of people from Bhagat Singh to Lala Lajpat Rai. There are a lot of revolutionaries and freedom fighters were there from Punjab. And our next story is of one of the youngest and brightest revolutionary from that state. So, who was Kartar Singh Saraba? So, Kartar Singh Saraba was born in Saraba village of Ludhiana, Punjab on 24th May 1896. He completed his schooling in Punjab and in Odisha, and he went to US for higher education. Now here in US, he met Sohan Singh Bhakna and Lala Hardayal. Well, we have seen Lala Hardayal's story earlier in our hero session, who are active in USA, spreading the word about the freedom struggle outside India. So they had founded something called Gadar Party, and Kartar Singh Saraba joined Gadar Party. He was very young at that time. He took the responsibility of printing and publishing revolutionary newspaper of this party, and they were secretly distributing that information in USA so that people outside India are aware of what is happening within India under the British Raj. Okay. The purpose of the newspaper was to unmask the atrocities being committed on Indians by the colonial British government, because consider this was like 110 years ago. There was no internet. There were hardly any inter-country communication messages happening, and especially India was under British Empire. So not much was known what is happening within India outside the Indian boundaries. Okay, everything was suppressed kind of thing. So these guys were ensuring that information is known to the people in USA. Yeah. So Kartar Singh here met other revolutionaries on his return to India. So he, at one point in time, he came back to India because he wanted to organize a big revolution here. Okay, that was the time when World War I was going on, and they thought that because Britain was busy fighting World War I, they can utilize this opportunity to carry out the revolutionary activities in India. Okay, so he came back to India. He organized a meet in Jalandhar. Okay, and they decided to start an armed revolt against British on February 21, 1915. So in that meeting, it was decided they will start this armed revolution, but somehow British came to know about this through their informers. Okay, so before they could start the revolution, this armed revolt, the British were aware of this. So they arrested Kartar Singh and other revolutionaries. Okay, and ultimately he was hanged. And Kartar Singh was
young.
He was only 19 years of old when he was hanged on November 16, 1915. So that made him one of the youngest revolutionaries of Indian freedom struggle. Okay. But he inspired a generation of revolutionaries. Okay, you mentioned about Bhagat Singh. So Bhagat Singh was inspired by Kartar Singh Saraba. Okay, because he also belonged to Punjab and he had heard his stories. In fact, Bhagat Singh always carried Kartar Singh's photo with him. Okay.
He was his favorite. He was a Kartar Singh Saraba was Bhagat Singh's favorite freedom fighter.
Yes, he considered.
And to him, he was like, "Oh, I'll only be happy when India is free."
Right. Yeah. So as Aditi mentioned, Bhagat Singh considered Kartar Singh Saraba as his guru. okay, as his hero. So that's the story of Kartar Singh Saraba. So this is on the left hand side, we have the flag of Gadar Party. Okay, that I mentioned. The Gadar Party was formed in USA, okay, which was for the fighting for the India's freedom. And you can see on the right hand side, okay, there were revolutionaries carrying out the protest. Yeah, they were associated with the Gadar movement in the USA. So we'll come to know about Gadar movement a lot. Actually, there are a lot of revolutionaries associated with the Gadar movement. Yeah, we have already covered and we are going to cover actually. So that's the story of Kartar Singh Saraba. The next story we have is of Ras Bihari Bose. Now we talked about the contribution of Punjab in the freedom struggle, but like Punjab, Bengal, especially unified Bengal, was also a hub of revolutionaries in the early 19th century. Okay, there were a lot of Bengalis who were contributed to revolutionary activities, be it Surendranath Banerjee or Surya Sen or others from there. Okay. So the next story we have is of a revolutionary who worked mostly out of India again. Okay. He hardly stayed in India, but he carried out all the revolutionary activities from USA to Japan and from Gadar Party to Azad Hind Fauj. Okay, so he contributed everywhere. So that's the
So
story of.
he was also part of Gadar Party.
Yes, we'll come to know about that. Yeah. So who was Ras Bihari Bose? So Ras Bihari Bose was born in Subatla village of Bengal on 25th May 1886. He was influenced by revolutionary ideas from his childhood. He got inspiration from many revolutionary and nationalist authors of his era. And at that time, as I mentioned, there were a lot of Bengali authors and revolutionaries, okay, during that time. So he was inspired by them. And he believed that British would not yield power without revolutionary action. So he was the believer of armed revolt. Okay, he was not for the non-violence. Okay, that came later. Okay, but he was the believer of armed revolt, like the Kartar Singh Saraba, Bhagat Singh, and others. So he was involved in the planning of bomb attack on Lord Hardinge, the then Viceroy of India, on 23rd December 1912. So they made an attempt to kill the Viceroy of India. Okay, but it was unsuccessful. Somehow Ras Bihari managed to escape, and then he went underground. For some time, he didn't do much activity, but he continued working for the food relief work in Bengal. When at that time in 1913, Bengal was hit by a flood, so he was carrying out the relief work there. So this is where he met Jatin Mukherjee, who reignited the revolutionary spirit in Ras Bihari Bose. Okay, so and during when the World War I started in 1915, Ras Bihari got an opportunity to go to USA. So he went to USA and he joined Gadar Party there. So in the western side of USA, Gadar Party was very active actually. They started from Canada, then in the San Francisco area, it was very active. So Ras Bihari was also associated with Gadar movement that time. Okay, and they attempted to trigger an armed revolution against the British. The revolution failed again. Okay, so Ras Bihari was on lookout even in USA, so he escaped to Japan. Okay, from USA he went to Japan. Now he became a Japanese citizen in 1923 and stayed there. Okay, for the rest of his life. He worked as a journalist and writer in Japan, but he continued with some sort of activities there. He started building the groundwork. Okay. Now in 1942, he established the Indian Independence League in Japan. Earlier, we had talked about the Azad Hind Fauj, the Indian National Army that was initially formed by Mohan Singh in Singapore. So then Mohan Singh then placed the INA under Ras Bihari Bose. So initially the INA was placed under Ras Bihari Bose in Japan. Then Ras Bihari Bose invited Subhash Chandra Bose. When Subhash Chandra Bose escaped from Germany, he invited him to Japan. And once the Subhash Chandra Bose came to Japan.
Are Raj Bihari Bose and Subhash Chandra Bose related?
No, not related. Okay, they are not in a family relations, but yeah, but they knew each other. Actually, Raj Bihari was the one who invited Subhash Chandra Bose to Japan and asked him to become the president of Indian National Army. And that was they actually addressed the Indian National Army together at one point in time. So then we know about Indian National Army, the Azad Hind Fauj that Subhash Chandra led them against the British in the Burma and Singapore and other places, right? So that's the story of Ras Bihari Bose, who contributed right from Gadar movement to the Azad Hind Fauj and everything in between. And he mostly worked outside India, fighting for the India's freedom. So now the next story is different. Okay, we talked about two revolutionaries. Now we come back to the independent India. Okay. Now you may not be knowing, but there was a time in 1960s, okay, when India faced a huge food shortage. Okay, right now we don't think much about eating food. Okay, we make a choice, right? We demand, like, we want to eat this, we want to eat that. But in 1960s, there was a time when India faced a huge food shortage. Most people had nothing to eat actually. Okay, because there was a supply coming from US of wheat that was suddenly stopped due to some restrictions, and we had no wheat in the country. Okay, and at that time the Prime Minister was Lal Bahadur Shastri, who actually requested people to do volunteering fasting. Okay, so that others can have food. Okay, they asked people to skip one meal uh, okay, every week, so that others can have that food. So there was a huge crisis that time. So there was a need to solve this, okay, because India was a big population at that time also. It was like 40 crore population was there. So how to provide food to everyone? So number of scientists and researchers were working on that. And they started something known as the Green Revolution. Okay. Harit Kranti. Okay. That was started. And our next story is of a scientist who was one of the major contributor to this Green Revolution or Harit Kranti. His name is Benjamin Pierre Pal, or Dr. B.P. Pal, as he was known. So Dr. B.P. Pal was born in Mukundpur, Punjab on 26 May 1906. His father was a medical officer in Burma, so his early education was in Burma. And this is when he developed interest in roses and painting and plants. So he decided to become botanist. Botanist is the person who studies plant, and ultimately then he became a plant scientist. So he continued his education in the field of botany and agriculture. He in fact topped his MSc in botany class. He was a gold medalist. Then he received his PhD from Cambridge, UK. He went there, received his PhD, and he was one of the first one to do research on wheat hybrids or genetic wheat. Okay, during his PhD. At that time, he was the first one to do this research. He came back to India and joined Indian Agriculture Research Institute, which is called RE. Okay, IARI. Okay, after this PhD, he came back and here he joined this institute. As I mentioned, in 1960s, India faced a major food crisis and became dependent on the external help. Okay, we had to import wheat from outside and food from outside. So the Green Revolution was conceptualized and launched under Dr. Pal's leadership that radically transformed India from a starving to a surplus nation. So how did it happen? So Dr. Pal is well known for his contribution to crop improvement, particularly the breeding of superior disease-resistant wheats. So he came up with a variety of wheats which were disease-resistant, and okay, and India started breeding those. Okay, the farmers of India started those varieties of wheat. Okay, and over the time, India became a self-sufficient in wheat production. He also introduced modern technology to breed new varieties of potato, tomato, tobacco, and other plant varieties. He strengthened the research in the areas of animal husbandry and fisheries as well. Okay, so all the aspects of related to food he worked on. So we talked about RE that he joined, like the institute that he joined. He ultimately became a director of RE and made a lot of many contributions in the areas of research, education, and its extension. Actually, under his leadership, actually, RE generated more than 2,000 scientists who contributed for India's Green Revolution. Okay, in the varieties of plant-based research. Okay. So he established actually a school of fundamental genetics in RE that worked on the genetical varieties of different food items, especially wheat and other like potato, tomato, food items. For his contribution, he was elected as the Fellow of the Royal Society of London, okay, and received numerous other international honors. Okay. He is actually called Homi Baba of Indian agriculture. We know Homi Baba. He is the one who is the father of India's nuclear program, right? So similarly, DP Pal is considered Homi Baba of Indian agriculture. Okay, he made a similar contribution in this field. Once he retired, he stayed in Jalandhar. He continued working on environment protection and even bred multiple varieties of roses. Okay, he created a rose park in Jalandhar, okay, which is still there. So that was the contribution of Dr. B.P. Pal. And this is the institute that we talked about, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, RE. So now if we are able to have a sufficient supply of wheat and other food items, many thanks goes to Dr. B.P. Pal and other scientists. Yes, yes. Not only Dr. B.P. Pal, yes, he was one of the major contributors, and there were a host of scientists who made it possible. Okay. So the last story we have is of Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. Now this is the third revolutionary we are talking about today. We had one revolutionary from Bengal, Ras Bihari Bose. We had one revolutionary from Punjab, Kartar Singh Sarabha. Now the third revolutionary is from Maharashtra. Okay, and like the other two,
I knew it from the surname.
yes, and like the other two, he also worked out. He was very active outside India. Okay, so Kartar Singh was active in USA, Ras Bihari Bose was active in Japan, and Savarkar was active in Britain, especially in London. Okay. He was so feared that he was sent to Kalapani in Andaman Cellular Jail, okay, for 2 lifetimes. So who was Savarkar?
What is 2 lifetimes?
I'll talk about that. Yeah. So Vinayak Damodar Savarkar was born in the village of Baghur near Nasik on 28th May 1883. He was an author, a poet, a politician, an independence activist, and a revolutionary. He founded a secret society called Abhinav Bharat Society along with his brother Ganesh in London. It was a secret society. They were creating books on India's revolution and publishing pamphlets through this society and supporting other revolutionaries. Madan Lal Dhingra was also associated with this Abhinav Bharat Society, and Madan Lal Dhingra killed Sir Curzon Wiley in 1909. Okay, so at that time, a lot of Indians who were there in London, they didn't approve of this act of Madan Lal Dhingra, but only Savarkar stood by him. Okay, he supported Dhingra. Actually, wrote in support of Madan Lal Dhingra. Okay, he also published books, okay, advocating revolution to free India. He wrote a book about 1857, India's first revolt. Okay, that was the first authentic book written by anyone on India's 1857 freedom struggle. Okay, so naturally British were not happy with that, so they banned his book and they wanted to arrest him. So he was arrested and was sentenced to Kalapani. Okay, it was called a Kalapani, the life imprisonment in the Andaman. Life imprisonment is basically for the entire life you will stay there. Okay? Mostly it applies to 14 years. Okay.
But what does it mean? Double lifetime.
Yeah, so he was one of the few who was given double lifetime. That means he was supposed to spend 28 years there. Okay, not single lifetime. Okay, double lifetime. So for the 2 different crimes, he was the crime as per the British law, he was given the same punishment twice. Okay, so from London he was sent to India, and there is a story, a very famous story, that he at that time he was being transported by ship. Okay, there were no flights, so so he was being transported by ship from London to India, and the ship was harbored at one of the ports in France. So he had already made a plan to escape, so he jumped into the sea. He swam and reached the port. He tried to escape. He was associated with Madame Kama. Madame Kama was in Paris that time. Okay, so she was supposed to arrange a car for his escape, and car actually came, but car was delayed due to some issues. The car didn't come on time, so Savarkar couldn't escape. He was again caught in France. Okay, and it created a lot of international news because like this was an Indian arrested in France by the British authorities. Okay, so it became a international headline. Ultimately, he was brought to India. He was sent to Andaman. Okay, and he stayed there. Okay, there is a famous cell there in Andaman where he was kept. He was specifically tortured because they knew, okay, he's a kind of a leader of other revolutionaries. So his cell was exactly above where there was a hang room. Okay, he could see people being hanged there. He was being continuously tortured there. So, and when he was sentenced to Kalapani, he was just 28 years of age. So he was quite young that time. Next 13 years he spent in the cellular jail. Okay. He actually, on the walls of his cell, he wrote poems and articles and his thoughts on this wall. Okay, using his uh, nails. Actually, he did that. Ultimately, he knew that he couldn't do much staying there, so he wrote ultimately he wrote mercy petitions as well. Okay, to British to free him from Kalapani. Okay, because he wanted to come back to the mainland and be a part of the struggle, but British knew that he's a dangerous man, so those were rejected. Ultimately, after a lot of pressure by other leaders, okay, a lot of people supported Savarkar that time, okay, including Gandhiji and Lala Rajpat and others actually spoke in his favor. So in 1921, he was released. Okay, and but
When
he
was he
was
put in jail again?
he was put in jail in 1910 to 1911. So after 11 years, he was released actually. Okay, and but he was restricted. He was released in that sense that he was released from cellular jail, but he was restricted to Ratnagiri district. He was asked not to go outside that district. He was kind of a house arrest in that place. Okay, so he couldn't travel anywhere. So he stayed there in Ratnagiri, but here he worked on the abolishment of the untouchability, the caste system. Okay, so he worked on reforming the Hindu society there. He was visited by a lot of leaders there. Dr. Ambedkar visited him, Gandhiji visited him, and Ambedkar actually appreciated his work, okay, being done there. And later part of his life in 1937, he became a president of Hindu Mahasabha to counter the rise of Muslim League that was led by Jinnah. Okay, and he became outspoken critic of Mahatma Gandhi in the later phase of life. Okay, and
What
till the
does
last
outspoken?
outspoken means he was a very vocal critic of Gandhiji during the later stage of life because they had different thoughts. Okay, he was not a very supportive of partition that happened. Okay, so he was a believer of a unified India.
Okay.
Okay, so there are a lot of people like him who were not okay, they didn't like the partition, so he continued demanding the unified India even after independence. So that's the story of Savarkar. He became a quite of controversial figure at the end of his career, but he was a feared leader for the British. This is the book he wrote. He wrote a number of books actually. In Marathi, there is a very famous poem by him as well that was sung by Lata Mangeshkar sometime back. But yeah, this is one of the most authentic work on the India's War of Independence of 1857. Okay, before that, British always considered or portrayed that as a
Was Veer
mutiny.
Savarkar, right?
Yeah, Diti, can you repeat it? Yeah.
His pen name was Veer Savarkar, right?
Yes, he is called Veer Savarkar. That title was given by other leaders
That's
from
why I thought
Maharashtra.
he was familiar because Veer Savarkar is a famous name.
Yes. Okay, this was and this is right hand side. That's his cell or the jail where he was kept. Okay, cellular jail. I have actually visited Andaman and I have seen this in person. Actually, I have seen this place. Okay, so yeah, that's the story.
So you took this photo?
No, this is not my photo. Actually, I try to find that photo. I'll probably someday I'll share that somewhere in my camera. It will have yeah. So that's the story of Savarkar.